and Simon Williamson!
Woo! Hello everybody, wakey. Sunday morning, how are y'all?
It is Sunday morning. It was. We all remember Sunday morning from the other side. Those lights are very bright. Oh, thank you. There we go.
Woo, man, that was...
we can see them again.
That cleared the sinuses, that one. Hey.
I'm Mike Quinn.
And I'm not.
No.
He's Mike like Quinn. I said, it's all you guys on this one.
So, what do you get when you put a blue X-Wing into a green swamp? No, what happens when you put a blue X-Wing into a green swamp? It gets wet. Thank you, yes. Thank you. It was really funny.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll take that as read.
I mean, is there any like little facet of Star Wars that you guys weren't actually involved with? Because the more we talk, the more it's like, oh well, I was there for this, and oh well, they were off doing this bit, but I was doing this at the time, and I was here and there, and just everywhere with all the little things and wonderful characters that you were doing.
So, well, things that we weren't. Was there anything we weren't involved in? You're saying, right? I mean. The thing is, when we weren't shooting on our own scenes, like I'd sneak off onto other sets on Star Wars. I'd like walk. I remember getting lost on Dagobah one day on stage 6, getting lost there, and then they had the Luke's shuttle, you know, his Imperial shuttle. I remember going inside there and looking around, and you know, you could do that stuff back then. It was great. Just play, you know, just play.
Now, we obviously we talked quite a bit about Star Wars yesterday, because there is endless, all about all the wonderful characters that you played. I'd like to talk a little bit about Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal, yeah.
Dark Crystal.
Yeah. Got a fan there.
We've got the Dark Crystal fan, I'm sure there's a few more out there. Just the whole experience of working on that film, because it was just something truly special.
It was the very first animatronic film ever, wasn't it? So they were basically inventing animatronics at that point. It was before E.T.
And also billed as the first puppet-only film, although there were humans in it. So we had a small guy called Kieran Shah who doubled for Jen in long shots, for example. But otherwise, every character was a puppet of some sort. And it was my first exposure to puppetry, because I joined basically for my movement skills, acting and movement, and did a bit of martial arts and stuff, but those were the skills required. But Jim Henson himself would train us once a week for about an hour or so in this kind of room that was being made to manufacture the Garthim, so there was the smell of fiberglass all over the place, and he put up a massive mirror, and we'd all stand in front of it with a little puppet, and Jim would take us through the rudiments of puppeteering, and it was just great.
Have you seen there's pictures of that actually? Have you seen any? Yeah, they.
Oh yes, I have. Yeah. I've seen a black and white picture in a book, and you can't see my face because I think it's Mac Wilson to my left has got his hand up and it's covering my face like that.
Outrageous, yeah. But yeah, there was all the. I mean, it was Jim Henson teaching us puppetry. You know, wonderful stuff.
And in terms of obviously all the different weird and wonderful creations that get made, so how involved are you in kind of making those? Is there any input in the design, in creating them, or are you just shown a thing and it's now get in and make this come to life? Or is there any kind of, oh well, actually if it was like this or like this it would be much better, or could we change this? How does things evolve with your input?
I think it depends on the project, doesn't it, as well?
Yes.
I'm a builder as well, puppet maker as well, so sometimes I can, like I was a builder on the modelings and slaves for the film as well, so I had a little bit of a say in what went inside the heads and how they moved, but oftentimes we come in as performers and we kind of plug into what is there. I think with the exception might be Nine Num, the character for the Millennium Falcon, where he was going to be a mask, but because he didn't have any movement on his face, I suggested he be a hand puppet, like a big Muppet. And so I influenced that in some way. At least now it meant we could see his face, you know. They were going to cover it up because he didn't have a moving mouth. So we can influence things in that way too. But like, you know, you have to have fittings and things, so to make sure everything works.
I think basically on Return of the Jedi, I had no input into how the creatures were constructed. They were kind of, the puppets were already made and given to us. Whereas on Dark Crystal, we had a 6-month rehearsal period and a 5-month shoot. So during the 6-month rehearsal period, most of our attention was devoted to the mystics, and the mystics were being built, in the process of being built. So we would try out various things, and then we would, for example, say, oh, you can't do that because some part of your body is in the way, or something is impossible to do. So in that instance, and sometimes the builders would be a bit grumpy about this. I said, well, why can't you do this? Because they'd spend a lot of time building it. We'd say, well, you could get in the position and see if you can do it to see what I mean, and then they could be convinced. But the mystics were a wonderful construction. I'll do the mystic position in a minute, but I won't have the mic with me, so I'll describe it first. The main puppeteering job is controlling the head with your hand. The head is on the end of a long neck, so up here like that, except we're crouched over to do it. So you're continually stretching your one arm forward, and it's not just ahead of you, it's in the middle, so you're kind of doing that. Combined with that, you're crouched over in a certain way, and you have to walk forward while still crouched over, and you can't go up and down, you can't walk like this, you have to try and walk smoothly. And the third element is the feet, the mystic feet were extended about that far, like a giant clown shoes. Imagine wearing clown shoes. And the tendency when you're crouched over and walking is to use, your toes and then your heel. But you have to walk flat-footed, and with these extended feet in front of you, which makes it doubly difficult. So I'll just briefly show you the position.
We'll play some elevator music. Yeah. So you can see it, you can see the mystic, with the long tail on the back and everything. Yeah.
Yes, there's a long tail as well, and one arm controls 4 arms. So one arm is occupied in the head, the other controls the arm behind it, because they're four armed creatures, and also it's connected to the arms on the other side. So quite complex.
Very clever.
So these are the things where you said, oh well, that looks great, but you can't actually do this, or you can't get any movement into the far arms.
Wow. And 4-armed is 4-warned. Yes. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes.
I mean, it would just from that alone, it must be extremely physically taxing to be all of these weird and wonderful characters for hours and hours. Like, how on earth do you prepare yourself for that?
Well,
what kind of training regime can you do?
Well, one of the things we had to do was obviously hold yourself in that mystic position for like half an hour. And the first time I tried it, I sort of gave up after 5 minutes. But you just have to, you train yourself, you train your body. They even gave us a diet that was designed to thin the blood. So normally healthy people will want to eat wholemeal bread, but we had to eat, just white bread because it thins the blood or something like that. We're a special dietitian with all this stuff because of the constricted positions you're in. You're liable to restrict.
We've got nothing with the sketches. We're like, oh yeah, eat whatever you want. We don't care.
Yeah,
we don't mind.
The regular Muppet performers in the sketches, they were upright all the time.
Bunch of wusses. Yeah, we had.
I was just about to say, could you show us your standing position in a skexis?
It was like that actually. Yeah, we had a harness that was fixed to our waist, and there was like a spine, a nylon rod that went up our backs into the forearm there. And so it would sort of support the weight of the arm, so we could sort of move around like this. And then the hand was controlled had a little like a pistol grip with carved wooden levers from the Skeksis elbow, so you could control the hand, the fingers, and then someone else would jump in and reach around and do the other hand. And then we had about 2 or 3 people on doing eyebrows and sneers and blinks and things on cable controls behind us. So a Skeksis could be like a 5-person operation. So you're training around the set, you know, with 5 people. It wasn't easy. There's one shot, I think I'm the only puppeteer to have done it, but there's a shot in the Dark Crystal where there's a wide shot in the crystal chamber, and up on one of the balconies you see my guy kind of camera left, sort of walking out like this on knees. I had knee pads and stuff, and that was the correct height for the Skeksis. So I'm the only one to have done that, I think. Otherwise we had holes in the floor, you know, panels like this that we could drop down into. Yeah, there we are.
Jolly good. And occasionally I would be the second hand of a Skeksis for a couple of shots.
Yeah. And
so you do sometimes kind of swap around, have to be multiple roles in each scene kind of thing, of just slot in where there's a hole, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. Slot in.
Just always on call to be like, can you just get in that way, please?
Yes, so as I said, we did most of our kind of rehearsal time in pre-production was on the Mystics, but then we did the Garthim as well, who they look very heavy, but they're fiberglass, and they had a particular way of walking, but it wasn't nearly as demanding as the Mystics. And in fact, it was because the Mystics moved slowly, and it's kind of a difficult process. It's demanding in a certain way, and you had to be very disciplined about your movement, or you would kind of start to shake. But with the Garthim, they would just they would thresh madly, so it was a great release to play a character that does that. In the similar way to Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace, I'm Max Rebo, which has a certain, restrictions. But the Gamorrean Guard, which I also play, are like a walk in the park compared to it. And they are like the Garthim, they're kind of aggressive and they lash out, so it's a different kind of performance.
We had to wear crash helmets underneath the Garthim, I remember. Remember that? Yeah, because of those blades like slashing right there on heads and stuff. Underneath the podlings, and they come crashing through the wall and everything. Dangerous stuff, man.
Yeah.
And scary.
Sorry. These the microphones, odd people we played as well.
Yeah,
so in that way we filled in, and there were woodland creatures and a wonderfly simple character called the Spiny, which was basically we were in sort of pink lycra suits, bodysuits, very tight, but onto which had been glued these cylindrical pointed spines.
Yeah.
And so you're a creature with these spines that were quite soft, and you just basically rolled around and the spines undulated in a certain way. It's rather effective and inventive, but quite simple to do.
So that you were one of those, huh?
I'm a Spiny.
You were a Spiny.
Yes.
That's where we first see Olga, isn't it, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. How about that? I never knew that.
So, gentlemen, I hate to say it, we are running a little bit low on time.
No, you might be. I'm not. I have lots of time.
I know you two could be up here for about the next 5 hours just chatting away.
No.
Honestly, last night until I don't even know what time, just there chatting. One final question for me, and then I'll open it up to the crowd. I realise this might be a little bit like asking you for your favourite child, but who was your favourite, puppet character, anything? Who was your favourite thing to be in the whole career, not just with Dark Crystal Star Wars? What's the standout of you being like, oh, I loved that, and why?
I'll answer it first. It used to be Ursol the Chanter, my mystic in Dark Crystal, because the challenge was so great, and I think we overcame the challenge, so we effectively did work. The degree of difficulty was high, but because Max Rebo is so appreciated by the fans, and they keep on producing more merchandise, for me, Max Rebo is now my favourite.
It's a tough one. I mean, I think I might talk a bit more in general terms, just because as a puppeteer you do so many different characters. I enjoy challenge of an acting character doing dialogue, you know, figuring out all the acting beats. That's a great thing. But I don't know, whenever we get to do like Muppets singing Rainbow Connection with Kermit and Piggy and all the gang, you know, it's just the best thing. It doesn't matter what puppet I'm in, you know, the audience is singing with us, and we've done quite a few live shows with them doing that at the Hollywood Bowl and O2 here and other places. And the audience starts crying, we start crying. I don't know what it is about that. It's just like a piece of Muppet magic, and it takes me back to my roots and my core and when I first started. So, I mean, that's a bit more of a generic answer, but it's very much a magical moment for me.
I mean, it's absolutely fine. It shows the love for the art that you both have,
yeah.
and you still, like, now it's making people happy using what is essentially a fake thing that you brought to life.
Yeah.
It is something very special, and you can see just like how much you both love it.
Yeah, but it's great to talk about this stuff because there isn't going to be another film made like The Dark Crystal, even though the Netflix series, you know, had old-fashioned techniques as puppetry as well as newer stuff.
Yeah.
There's, you know, so this kind of stuff is dying out, so it's wonderful to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. I assume everybody here is a fan of, in some level or other, creatures and puppets and fantasy and sci-fi and characters that are non-human, perhaps, right? I mean, that's, I guess, why we're here. So we need that in our lives, don't we?
As we were saying, real is always better. It's too easy to just throw a CGI something, but real is definitely different. At that point, I will throw it open to the crowd. If you have any questions, please raise your hands for these lovely two gentlemen.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just a bit of an information for you. Currently, the foyer is closed while we're dealing with a medical emergency. We also ask, if you're going outside, please follow the instructions of security and stewards, just because we will have ambulances coming through. So please follow instructions if you're outside. If you need toilets, please use the outdoor ones because the foyer is currently closed. Thank you for your cooperation.
Yeah, be careful, everybody. Yeah.
Your question.
What do you think is the hardest thing about bringing a puppet into a real character, like turning it from like an object into a real thing that kind of connects with people?
Yeah, it's the basic thing about a pop puppet is where the eyes are and what you do with the mouth. That's kind of the fundamental thing. And once you've got that kind of attention of the eyes, which is, you know, it's I suppose most apparent with the Muppets. You know, you get that fundamental point right or wrong, and it kind of makes the character live. And also there's particularly with the Muppets, the personality you put into them. So, you know, my Muppet work is very kind of rudimentary on, you know, kind of, we were given the opportunity on Dark Crystal to do a couple of days on Great Muppet Caper, for instance. We were background Muppets, but Mike, of course, has oodles of Muppet experience.
I think it's a really great question, though, and for me, I think it's maybe a two-part answer. The first part is the technique of performing. You know, how do you intuitively perform a puppet, make it look real without having to think about it? It's like the technique of playing a violin. You know, you don't want to think about it anymore. You just want to be able to play some music. So you have to get past the technique first. With any puppet or any creature, whether it's a radio-controlled face or a costume character or a Muppet or anything else, you want to get the technicality out of the way, so you're not thinking about how do I do this, how do I do that mechanically or physically. So that's the same no matter what with every new character. You have to get past that. The second part is almost nothing to do with puppets or animatronics. It's to do with acting, and you get to approach that character as an actor would their own character in the script. You figure out what motivates them, what do they hate, what do they like, how do they, you know, what are their insecurities, what are they after, what are they not saying, and it's all about building a real character. And if it's real to you as an actor, then it's going to have some truth to the people on screen. That's the same with any actor, basically. Would you say that's
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant by personality, the personality you put into it. So it's kind of internal, but you externalize it because you're essentially doing stuff with your hands. So you have this kind of mental connection, but you'll prepare, you'll make acting choices in the same way as you would if you're playing, a policeman or a villain in an episode of The Bill or something. You have certain things that you want the character to do, and sometimes it's simple little bits of business you add, which is slightly external, but it all comes from within.
That's excellent. Yeah, brilliant. Great question. Yeah, great.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any more questions for these lovely gentlemen? We will have to make this the last one, I'm afraid, but don't worry, they will be over at their tables in the far corner.
Our answers are too long.
As you can tell, they are wonderful to talk to.
Question from Mike. When you came back to play Nine in the sequel trilogy, was there anything that actually surprised you about his anatomy, going from a puppet to a full costume and suit?
I got the first part about when I returned.
Was there anything that surprised you about the anatomy, going from just being sat down to the full suit?
Oh, it was lovely. I mean, I got to walk around among all the actors and pretend that I was a real actor for a while. The thing that was hard was the vision. The eyes would fog up after a couple of minutes, so I couldn't really see too well. No matter what we put inside the spins, tried everything, there was just so much heat and moisture building up. I would sort of go mostly blind at that point, so whenever they had me doing running or going up steps or going through the tunnels of Crete in The Last Jedi, I fell over quite a few times, hurt my knee quite badly at one point. Very embarrassing in front of Carrie and everybody, and Oscar and 3PO and stuff. So had to come off, and I had to wipe the tears away and kiss it better, and then get back. And I think the take we did after that's the one that made it into the final movie. I do remember falling over onto BB-8 and breaking his antenna in one exterior scene outside the Falcon in the Force Awakens as well. So those are the hazards of being able to have legs.
I didn't hear the question fully. Was it about kind of accidents and things, hazards that...
Well, yeah, I mean, what's any surprises or things you don't expect? Or new challenges, right?
Yes. Yes, it's the danger aspect with some. So there's a scene...
Catching fire, for example.
Oh, one of the actors who was in the Landstrider in Dark Crystal, there was a kind of electronics box by his head, and he's fully encased in the costume, and smoke started to come out. So they had to kind of basically rip him out with the costume before it sort of went on fire. That's Hugh Spike.
I remember seeing that in the documentary. Why wasn't that there? What?
But danger-wise, I was one of again with Hugh Spike, or one of the Gamorrean guards who dragged Chewbacca down to the cells, and we had to descend down a kind of circular staircase, and I was on the inside, so I get the narrow edge of the steps all the way down. And initially that Gamorrean guard was played by one of us called Sui Lim, who nearly fell over doing the first take, and he said, "I'm not doing that again." And they didn't tell me that, but they said, "Would you like to get in there?" And I did it. But so, yeah, it was quite difficult, but it was well worth it. But there are hazards, particularly if the Gamorrean guards, like what I was saying earlier about the mystic feet, the Gamorrean guard feet are extra large, so an extra large foot in very narrow edge of a spiral staircase is not to be sniffed at.
It's dangerous working on film sets and stuff. Even, you think you're like protected and safe. A few months ago I was getting blown up. I had no idea what was happening. It's like, thanks for the warning, guys. It's dangerous. So that's the stuff you don't expect.
Gentlemen, I could stand, be around you guys, and listen to you talk for the rest of the day.
And yet.
But I am afraid to say our time is on.